What we have here is an abundance of beauty and lakes. The whole green movement fits in with a place like Cavan.
When you have a festival where there's so much alcohol taken, it's very difficult to control the amount of litter, and it's very difficult to control waste prevention. Also with the crowds, people aren't going to walk away from their friends, from their group, to a bin. It's just too difficult. So we did put a huge amount of 1,100 litre bins out on the street, every 20 or 30 metres in some cases. But it was still a challenge, and it does look very, very poor at that hour of the morning to have so much waste on the ground in the streets of Cavan town. Again, I suppose we just accept it as a necessary evil.
From an organisational point of view, it was very demanding. If you think about it, it's the largest traditional festival in the world. It's the scale of everything. Like a campsite is 3,000 people, it's not 300.
Well, we work with local authorities all around the country, and really local authorities are the best placed to run environmental awareness initiatives in their own community. They're more locally accessible than the EPA would be coming in as a national organisation. So we work with a lot of local authorities around the country, and when Cavan County Council approached us and said they were hoping to green the Fleadh, we were delighted to get on board.
It's a pity though maybe that there's not a little bit more civil mindedness, that people when they go someplace like this weekend to the Fleadh, that they maybe might leave their bottles or their bags or their rubbish someplace that it can be collected. Maybe that's an area that we could try and train people better, that we provide at these festivals the green and the black bin and the whatever red bin for recycling.
It's after dark then you get this massive rise in people dropping litter on the ground and just not caring about where the litter goes at the end of the day. Well, normally speaking, the town council would clean it up. But during the festival, during the Fleadh, we would have had the town council working in conjunction with private companies to clean up the town, and also to wash the streets very early in the morning.
Well, den féile cheapan héangail se duna job iontach mar tá neart buscaí brúscar háart agus is buscaí brúscar a chuirsála tá an tú. Tá áta brenn an gláán cholamháin agus cheapan héangail se duna job iontach an seo gon den cháin.
It's not very hard to pick up a piece of litter and put it in the bin. It's a very easy thing to do. So I feel that for future generations, you don't want your grandkids to turn around in 100 years' time and say that their grandparents or great-grandparents really messed up.
One of the things we have to remember, and I think people are very quick to kind of go, why is this not being cleaned up? But the real question is, why is it being thrown away? It's actually yet again, it's back to people's behaviour. Why is it acceptable for them to drive out a country lane and throw away a bag of rubbish?
People have to get behind it. Your recycling has to be already in place.
It's there, it's perfectly doable, and it should be encouraged, and this is our planet, we need to take care of it.
You have to start somewhere. You have to have some presence to let people know that what they're doing is affecting the environment. And I know Ireland's a small country. When you look at the likes of India and China, you might think to yourself, we're a drop in the ocean, and our contribution really probably doesn't add up to much.
There's so many benefits from having a green emphasis in a FLA, including to the local business. But even as a country, if you think about all the energy we've saved, just purely during the festival, that alone is good for Ireland Inc. But then if you look at it beyond that, and the 300,000 people, a captive audience, for people who are promoting green issues, you're never going to get that type of opportunity again. And to do it in the way it was done here, which is very subtle, but also very effective, you could spend hundreds of thousands of euros putting advertisements on television for the same effect.
It was an idea that we came up with in waste management in the first year to have a green FLA, and the idea was that we would target areas of waste management primarily, and that we would also introduce areas of water conservation and energy management into the businesses in Cavan, because they really didn't know the monetary savings that were possible. I was trying to initiate those in the businesses was the biggest challenge, and that was the first and foremost idea of the green FLA. Secondary then was, in terms of the green FLA management, the ethos, and to talking to members of Coltis, because they would have had the FLA for the last number of decades, and this was a new concept. So in the first year we tried to introduce the concept of having the green FLA, and it was introduced with caution and accepted with caution as well.
The idea was to reduce the amount of landfill, really as much as possible. It's against the law now to dump food in landfill. We waste a lot of water here in this country, but it's soon going to be the case that we'll have water bills, and then I'm sure we'll see people looking at ways of harvesting rainwater. The whole green FLA was all voluntary, and you just have to kind of snatch an hour here and there to talk about our next idea or whatever it is. All the other committees who are organising accessibility or whatever it may be, different days, different parts of the FLA, they were all working the same way. It was voluntary work. When you look back on it now, and the response we got from the people of the town, I'm a local, I'm from the town, so lots of people come up to me and said that they really enjoyed the FLA, and that the green zone added this year was just something extra that they really, really enjoyed and had never imagined. ERP had contacted Cormac to come down with his, he calls it Music Mayhem. He makes instruments out of waste products.
Now, I'd just also like to compliment the council on not wasting any money bringing me here today.
We had an idea that we should maybe approach one of the playwrights around the area and ask them to maybe write a play based on green theme, green issues.
I went shopping the other day and I forgot the shopping bag. I went to the supermarket and I got a shopping trolley with a squeaky wheel. I got bread and a packet of biscuits. I got a pound of butter. I got milk. I wouldn't chance me own, although it passes the quality test every day, or it passes every day, there's a quality test. I got cornflakes, and then the trouble started. I got sausages that was already wrapped in plastic paper, and she got them and the bacon that was in the plastic bag, and she put them into another plastic bag and tied a knot in it and said, that'll keep them together for you. I got onions that was in a string mesh and didn't need a plastic bag, but she put them into a plastic bag anyway and tied a knot in it. I got spuds that was in a big thick plastic bag with a bit of wire tied around the top of it that was put on with pliers. I got Domestos for the toilet. It was gone all brown with iron in the water. And she said, oh, we can't put that with the food. And she put it into a big plastic bag and tied a knot on it. I asked for fish. And she pulled the plastic bag over her hand and she reached down and she caught a hold of a fish. And then she pulled the plastic bag over the fish's head that was cut off and she tied a knot on it. And then she put it into another plastic bag and tied a knot on it and said, that'll keep it nice and fresh for you. I went to the till and I gave her a €20 note and she gave me back me change. And then she put the whole stuff I had into a big plastic bag and tied a knot on it and she said, I hope that'll be strong enough for you. And then she put it into a bigger plastic bag and tied a knot on it and she said, just to make sure. And then she tied another knot on the top of it and she said, that'll keep the bottom from falling out on you. And she was thinking all the time, the more knots she tied on the top of it, the less chance of the bottom falling out of it. And I went away home with me lock of groceries and about 25 plastic bags and me after cutting me nails the night before. And by the time I had the whole stuff took out of the plastic bags and put away, there wasn't one plastic bag worth a shite for anything.
We had the majority of the musicians organised prior to the Fleadh, and we also had, in the middle of each day of the weekend, ERP had a schedule for doing movies, and they had grow your own vegetables, and they had music mayhem.
It's really important to teach children how to be green because, you know, their children won't be able to survive if the hole in the ozone layer gets any bigger.
I'd been speaking to Martin Maguire and Martin had said they wanted the environmental theme. So I was trying to think, how could you do it that it's child-friendly, you know, appealing to adults. So I was trying to think of an idea and I thought, well, imagine if aliens landed on the Earth and what would they think of the Earth and how beautiful it is. So that's where I came up with this idea of a spaceship landing, aliens coming out and first being frightened but then being amazed by the beauty of the planet. And then of course the music is starting to change and they hide behind our trees, our real life trees and flowers. And as they're hiding, the mob come on, which we called the next group of dancers the mob, and they come on throwing their litter. And the aliens are peeping out with shocked faces. They can't believe that we would do that to the environment.
The idea of being carbon neutral was that we would plant trees to offset the carbon footprint of the Fleadh.
At Cornier landfill, traditionally 90,000 tonnes of waste was disposed of. As the waste decayed, gas was generated. Up until this year, the gas was just burnt off through a flare system. But now we've installed a gas utilisation engine, which actually converts the methane within the gas into power. In terms of the Fleadh, 2 days it's producing 750 kilowatts offset the full carbon footprint of the Fleadh.
The main thing that we have inside in the council is we have an internal green team, which has got people from each section, and it's been probably the most dynamic internal team we've had, and it's driven all sorts of initiatives, including cost savings. We reckon we're saving now about €300,000 a year on our energy consumption because of the work of that team. We have a slogan here since, I think it's 2006, to be the best at what we do. We've got self-starters at different levels of the organisation, and that's the key. And people with a great attitude. And I said the other day publicly that I've worked in the private sector for maybe nearly 15 years before I came to local government. The team of people in Cavan is better than any team I've ever seen, not to talk about managed or been involved with anywhere in my career. So we're very fortunate in Cavan at the moment.
Children's eyes, if we don't rise up, if we don't try. Na 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 na.
Just think green, give it a go.